Hello. In this video, I would like to take some time to go through Chapter 1 of Earth Science with you. And we will take a look here at just an introduction into what Earth Science is and what you can look forward to this semester and what all you are going to learn. So, what is Earth Science? In Earth Science, we are going to look at several different types of science. We are going to look at geology, geo meaning earth. So literally it says here the study of earth. So this is going to be historical in that we're going to take a unit on geologic time, but also physical in terms of mountains, volcanoes, earthquakes, plate tectonics, weathering, glaciers, water. We'll take a look at all of those things. Oceanography, we're going to have 3 chapters where we're going to look at the ocean, not just the water in the ocean, but the floor of the ocean, ocean currents, and how that helps control our weather, which is the next science that we'll study, which is meteorology. And then Earth Science also contains astronomy, but since most colleges have a standalone course in astronomy, we will not cover that in this class. One of the things that you're going to notice as you look at your textbook and as you look at the PowerPoints is that you will have these links to smart figures. And if you click on those links, then you will be able to watch a video about a lot of different topics. And as you watch my lecture videos, you'll see that I include a lot of those in my lecture videos as well. And some of these are what we call virtual field trips, where we're going to take you to this location, and then some of them are illustrations or animations showing you about different processes that are taking place. So take advantage of looking at those smart figure videos when you're going through the PowerPoint on your own. So we have a class also in environmental science. Earth science is really a type of environmental science because we are looking at the environment. We're approaching it more from a physical science perspective than a biological science perspective, which is typically what happens in environmental science. Here's another one of those smart figures that I mentioned. This one includes an animation. And since we're going to cover geologic time a little bit later on, I'm not going to show the smart figure now. And I'm going to skip through that. So the next part of your chapter here is really just looking at the scientific method, which is something you talk about in pretty much every science class that you take, just because it is so important. And what I want you to understand about the scientific method is that it comes down to scientific inquiry, basically asking questions and then trying to figure out the answers to those questions. And that's what you'll do a lot of in the lab for this class, as well as some of the assignments that you're going to have. We talk in this course about theories. So a theory is a tested and confirmed hypothesis. So a theory is something that has been tested and confirmed over and over and over again. And I'm going to skip through this just because we're going to cover this again when we get to geologic time. So what I want to focus on primarily for this is the Earth as a system, because your first assignment that you have in the class is about Earth as a system. So Earth is composed of 4 different spheres, and all of those spheres interact to form a system. So they're separate, but they interact. And the first one we have is the hydrosphere, hydro meaning water. So this is the sphere of the Earth that looks at water. So the oceans as well as fresh water. And when we talk about fresh water, we have to consider 2 sources of fresh water that we may not think about sometimes, and that's glaciers and also our groundwater. Okay, so water that is, that we use for drinking water from aquifers or wells. So we have water that is stored in the ground. So here you can kind of see how the water sphere plays out. Oceans make up, about 97%. And then saline, groundwater, and lakes make up almost 1%. And so the remaining you see here are in our glaciers, groundwaters, and streams. And so you can see that of all of the water on the planet, only about 2.5% is freshwater. Our next sphere that we look at is the atmosphere, and this is a blanket of air that is from the ground basically up to space. And the lower portions of the atmosphere are what control our weather, and that's why we consider them along with these other spheres to include in this idea of Earth being a system of these interacting spheres. So here we have the Earth's surface. We've got our altitude here in kilometers. So you can see this is what the atmosphere looks like from a space shuttle. Okay. And when we look at atmosphere, not only is this where our weather is going to be, but we also have to talk about the pressure that is being exerted by these gases. So even though we can't see these gases, I mean, we have a bird's eye view here, but if we're just out in the environment, we can't see the gases that surround us, but they do have pressure that's pushing down on us. And we'll talk about those differences in air pressure and how they control a lot of the processes that happen on Earth. Then we get to the biosphere, bio meaning life. So this is all living organisms. And so we're going to find living organisms within these other spheres. We find them on the surface of the Earth, but we also find them at the bottom of the ocean. And then finally, we get to the geosphere. Remember, geo meaning Earth. And so this is going to be the solid portion of Earth. So from the Earth's surface all the way to the Earth's core. And we are going to take a look at the geosphere in this first unit that we cover. We'll take a look at rocks and minerals, then we'll get to the continental plates, the crust, and then the core of the planet, as we talk about volcanoes and earthquakes. So here's again another smart figure. We'll look at this one when we actually get to the section on the geosphere, but here you can see the really thin crust, and then we have this mantle, and then finally we get to the core in the very middle. So like I mentioned, Earth is considered a system because each sphere is linked and affects all other spheres. And so here we have an example of the hydrologic cycle, which we'll talk about more in depth when we get to the chapter on running water and groundwater. So here in the hydrologic cycle, we have the atmosphere involved because of weather. Okay, we have the hydrosphere involved because we're talking about water that's being cycled through. We have the biosphere related because all of this grass and trees, they need water to be able to survive. And then we talk about the geosphere because we're looking at groundwater that's underground below the surface of the Earth. If we look at the face of the Earth, we have ocean basins and continents, and we're going to cover each one of these in detail as we go throughout the course. We'll use maps a lot in this course. We'll look at, world maps, we'll look at continental maps, ocean maps, and then very focused maps of particular, towns or landscapes. So we do work a lot with maps. So you'll learn how to read a wide variety of maps, both paper maps and, use electronic maps as well. And we'll talk about a lot of these features that you see on this map. So I'm going to kind of skip through some of this just because we're going to come back to this later on. And really the main focus for this chapter was looking at those spheres, looking at the biosphere, the hydrosphere, the geosphere, and the atmosphere, and how they all relate together. And so that was my main focus for going through this PowerPoint with you. Each week you'll have access to the PowerPoint, and you'll also have access to my lecture video that I'll do for you. And in some weeks, when your assignments are a little bit more complicated, or the websites that you're using are a little bit more complicated to get through those, I'll also provide you with an assignment walkthrough. And then you'll have pre-lab videos that you will watch that are provided by your textbook publisher. And these are really good videos that will help you with the lab work that we're going to do in class that day, and will also help provide some of those answers for what you're going to be looking at in your lab workbook. So I hope this has helped you and provided you with an introduction to earth science and what earth science is and what you're going to be learning this semester.